Good. So that means that Miss Ann can talk as long as she wants. Ann Root was the owner of Old Town Stitchery Quilt Shop in Clinton, Mississippi, where 12 ladies met in 1990 to talk about starting a statewide quilting association. And MQA is the result of that meeting. Ann is 87 years young. She attends quilting groups 3 times a week. She no longer makes big quilts, she says, but she quilts every day. Ann says quilting is the thread that holds all of us together. Please welcome Ann Root. And y'all don't want to see that, but let me see if I can get my cursor to work. And Miss Ann, you can stop right there, and I'm going to get out of the way.
I've given her orders to let me know when it's time to quit. I see a lot of familiar faces. Can you hear me? I see a lot of familiar faces, but I also see a lot of people I don't know, which is good. It's encouraging to see the enthusiasm and the excitement that y'all all have coming to this meeting. That's what makes quilting unique. As Cynthia said, I meet with a quilting group 3 times a week. I meet every Wednesday, if possible, and twice a month with another group. I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have those groups. I left Mississippi and went to Florida, and I was in Florida for about 13, 14 years. And first thing I did was join a quilt guild. And the first meeting at the guild, this lady walks up to me and she says, "Would you like to quilt together?" And I said, "Yes, when?" I was dying for a group. Quilting is a good hobby. It's also the virus almost killed us. We all have a tendency to stay at home and not get together. But quilting is going to survive, virus or no. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to go on to things that have changed in the quilting world. I opened my shop in 1979. I was not a quilter, was not interested in quilting, but then I went to my first quilt show. I sold clothes, and the lady that I went in business with, she wanted to do the quilting. So I said, "Okay, we'll open a shop, but we've got to have dress fabrics, because I'm not going to quilt." At that time, my mother had tried for years to talk me into quilting. And all I knew about quilting was big ladies sitting around the frame, quilting. And that didn't appeal to me at all. I had 5 children, and I didn't sit still long enough to quilt on the frame. So I kind of just said, "Okay, but I want some dress fabrics in that store." So we opened up with dress fabrics. Needless to say, I don't sew clothes anymore, but I do love to quilt. Cynthia said that I pretty much quit doing the big quilts. I always like to do big quilts. I do some small things, but mostly I put my quilts on beds. All of my children have quilts, all of my grandchildren have quilts, all my great-grandchildren have quilts, and I'm not talking about 1 or 2. But anyway, we went to the quilt show, and I pretty much decided then that quilting was the thing I wanted to do. But I had joined the Stitcher Guild, and they had a lady come into town, going to demonstrate putting the double wedding ring together on the sewing machine. My first quilt, I quilted by hand. I didn't quilt it, I sewed it together by hand. I cut it with scissors. Now you young ladies, you don't know what you got. You try quilting, cutting the double wedding ring out with your scissors. It's not fun, and it takes a long time. But anyway, I went to that class. I had two ladies in my car with me, and we were on our way home. And I made the statement, if we don't do this, we'll forget how to do it. Well, the lady in the back seat back there, she says, well, I'm not doing anything next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Nothing was said. Going down the road a little piece, and the next lady says, I'm not doing anything next Wednesday either at 1 o'clock. So I said, well, all right. Y'all bring your sewing machines and come to my house. We'll meet next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Well, before the next Wednesday came up, there were 3 or 4 more that had called, wanted to come too. So we formed a group called Lakeside Quilters that was a group of 12. I have to tell you that that group of 12 was 12 ladies that would never have run into each other. We had a lady that came from Yazoo City every Wednesday. She made her doctor's appointments in Jackson because she had to go to quilting on Wednesday. But it was a real close group. We took trips together. We did just lots of things together. But it was a group of 12 ladies. None of us would have had an occasion to meet the other ones, other than through quilting. So yes, quilting is the thread that holds the quilting together and people together. I would encourage everybody to join a group. If it's not just but 1 or 2, I can tell you, you might end up with 12 before you're through. So kind of remember how many seats you got. But anyway, that's for me. Now going back to quilting. Quilting's been around a long time. How many of you remember Mama with the quilt frame hanging from the ceiling? I never had that. Mother sewed clothes and she sewed everything I ever wore until I married. And then even after I married. So she didn't have time to quilt, but she always wanted to quilt. We had moved to Clinton. We had a big living room with no furniture because we couldn't afford it. Mother just decided that living room was for a quilter. Well, we ended up, getting together and doing the quilting and enjoying it. The first class we took, Mother and I took a class from Martha Skelton doing a sampler quilt. We used the same patterns. Mother chose her fabrics, the colors she wanted. I chose my fabric. I cut out templates out of cardboard, ladies. We didn't have plastic. We didn't have, how many of you remember seeing those Aunt Martha's quilt? That's about the extent of the patterns that you had back then. I can remember when we finally got the rotary cutters. Oh, what a joy. We thought we'd really died and gone to heaven. But the rotary cutters, and somewhere along the way, now this is a rumor, so don't quote me on this, but I've heard that the rotary cutter was invented to cut chicken necks. Have you ever thought of that?
No, Japanese dressmaker.
Do what now?
A Japanese dressmaker
In
the rotary cutter.
And the first cutters we had were the little ones, the little bitty ones. And then they came up with the big ones, and that was wonderful. So we evolved from scissors and cardboard to big cutters, rulers, and of course if you had a cutter, you had to have a mat. And you better be sure you got a quilt if you're gonna start with the rotary cutter and the mat, because then you got to have some rulers. And everybody has their own preference in rulers, and I can remember going to the market and seeing one kind of ruler. The oval cutter was the first one, and it's still around. So there's been a lot of changes. And ladies, as we get older, we're not too sure about all these changes. But there's been a lot of changes in the quilting world. Who would have ever thought that you would cut out little pieces of fabric and make a picture out of it? My husband, the first time I came up with some fabric and was cutting it out to make a quilt, he said, "You mean to tell me you can cut up that perfectly good fabric into little pieces and sew it back together again?" I said, "Yes, that's what I'm gonna do." But he learned to understand and appreciate quilting, and he would go with me as a vendor to shows, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. He would even tell me if I lost my points on my stars. That wasn't a good thing. But anyway, we had a real good time with our quilting. He loved going to the quilt. He loved quilting the ladies. He just enjoyed waiting on them and cutting their fabric for them. And he made a lot of friends through quilting. When I went to Florida after he retired, and I joined the quilt group down there, one of the ladies that was a friend of mine bought a quilt shop. And so I worked for her for a while and enjoyed that too. But you know, I just wanted to do my own thing. And I think you get to that point that you want to do your own thing. You're not interested, you are interested, I take that back, you are interested in what other people are doing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you're going to do. So I think everybody needs to find their own likes and dislikes. I thought I was an applicator, and I do love to applicate, but I'm tired of it. I'm gonna get back on my sewing machine and do me something quick. I've been applicating on several things, and I just finished hand quilting a quilt that is a mid-size quilt that I appliqued these over 30 years ago. I was afraid it was gonna be drywall. But you know, it washed and it turned out beautifully, and I'm just real pleased with it. I don't hand quilt a lot of things. I've got several pieces now that I want to hand quilt, but I'm not a fast hand quilter. I had Betty Lewis hand quilt my mama's quilt, because mama, the quilts that we took, the class that we took with Martha Skelton was hand done. Back then, that's what you did. You threaded your needle and you went to town. We didn't go to the sewing machine back then. So tell me, what have you found that you have found lately, the younger ones that are quilting? Have you found some things that really turn you on and start you really dreaming about what you're going to do? There's all kinds of things out there. Every time I meet with my group, the active quilt. Who in the world would have thought you could run some fabric through a machine and have it cut? Precise. I can remember when I saw the first machine long arm. Now, I've been in business long enough to see the first long arm. And I was really surprised. But there was a camera, and it was at the quilt market, and they were showing it. So it was, you know, exciting. A lot of you ladies now have a long arm in your home, and you do your own quilt. I think that's wonderful. I've tried to quilt on my sewing machine. It's not for me. My shoulders won't let me handle that much fabric, and that's one reason I quit doing any big quilts, is because you take, all my beds are queen size. I did one king size double wedding ring, and that was it. I just told my children they wouldn't get a quilt if they had a king size bed. But anyway, that's really, I'm sure that y'all have seen paper piecing. You've done the pieces where you cut them apart and make a picture out of them. I think that's wonderful. The people who are doing these pictorial quilts, oh, the talent. The Martha Gideon, I just am amazed at her talent. I'm not an artist by any stretch of the imagination, but I like to put fabrics together, and I like to play with fabrics, and I love to feel the fabrics. I don't do much online because I like to feel them. But there's a lot of people out there that shop online, and they do some beautiful quilts. Now, I'm just about through. And Cynthia has a slideshow that she wants to show. But when she does, how many of you were active in MQA when it first started? Or pretty soon on? All right, Marilyn knows.
Would you stand?
Okay.
Would you stand?
Do you have any pictures? We need to have some record of the first MQA. There were a few ladies, maybe 12, that came to my shop, and we sat around the table and discussed the possibility of joining all these people together.
They should also try to take a picture.
Thank you. Okay. For you that raised your hands, we would like, when we break first dinner, we'd like for you to come up here because we want, if you were there at the beginning or very close to the beginning, we'd like your picture with Ann, okay? Now, it will take me a second because this silly computer has but I'm gonna, that's her then and now. These are some names. I'm gonna leave it up there a second. Y'all see some names that you recognize or you remember? Now. How about that? Now, this is the first gathering in February 9th, 1991, and about 180 people attended. And I believe this is outside of Hattiesburg. This is the building that they met in, and you can see some quilters there. And Martha Ginn was president, and Suzanne Stutt was secretary, Miriam Rice was treasurer, and Martha Skelton was education. Ellen Hall was membership. The one person, y'all know the third one. Yeah, that's Martha Ginn.
Before she dyed her hair.
Okay, now this is, in the early days, what they did was have a technique, and one person was at a table and they gathered around. So here they are learning something, and you can see in the background there was another table. Look, they were watching. Okay, this is Martha Skelton in the pink, showing something. Then this is another shot of the teacher with the people. Ology. Okay. Then I'm not quite sure what they were doing out here, but it's outside. Are they basing it? Okay. And then at the very first one, compliments of Martha and Pine Belt, they had these two, banners. Did y'all know, probably all of you know, except for maybe a new one, that, new people, that Martha, again, designed the magnolia? Yeah. Okay, and as will happen, people sit around the room and they sell things or they show things or, you know, I was amazed when I was looking at these pictures. We're doing some of the same things. Okay, this is the June gathering in 1991 at the Mississippi Delta Community College, and that's Martha again showing, talking about a quilt. And a basic 9-patch. I'm not sure why she was holding it up, but they were talking about 9 patches. And then look at that. That had t-shirt sales. Yes, and it looked like maybe registration was on the other end of the t-shirt sales. And here's a show and tell. And if you'll notice in the far back, this is in a gymnasium, but we have a shop set up. And there's another book. Isn't that gorgeous? You know, the pictures in the books, every once in a while had a name. They didn't have any information. They did have it, you know, that these are actual pictures from the summer gathering. But as far as telling you, being a little bit more specific, when I was doing it, I thought, oh, I would love for them to have written another word or two. Okay, and then this is the fall gathering in 1991 in Picayune. And it looks to me like they're in a church. So they're sitting around waiting for it to start. And there's another shot of them. Looks like we have a store at the very back. And I think that's Martha teaching or speaking. And then this is, what's her name? Martha Skelton. Isn't that a beautiful quilt? Don't know who the lady is that's helping her. Oh, was it? Y'all want me to go back so you can see? Is that ology? Yeah. And then that's the last one that I have from that time. So I wanted to share those things with you, and I just think it's great that we can go back and remember. And we've come a long way, guys. As Ann told you, we came from scissors and cardboard to rubber cutters and mats and digital patterns. So we've come a long way. I'd like to ask Patty and the area reps, anyone that would like. Are we ready, Nancy, for some door prizes?
I got 4 tickets.
Okay, good deal.